Hey, good evening, ladies and germs. My name's Scott Cleverdon.
My name is Assumpta Serna.
And I need a haircut.
And I need a haircut too.
Yeah, we all need a haircut. Today is the 11th of May in the year of our Lord 2023. And today we're going to be talking about various things. But first thing I want to say is thank you for joining us today. If this is your first time with us, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, remember to give us a like and follow our page and investigate the playlist because there's lots of interesting things there.
Who are we? Well, there is also some videos about that. He is an actor. I'm an actress. We've been also...
I like that. He is an actor.
He's an actor. I'm an actor.
Who's he?
Scott Cleverdon.
You know that when we were...
We already said the names.
No, I know. You have a thing here. You got the... Yeah, there we go. You know that when we were kids that we're told to never refer to as our elders as she or he?
I know. I didn't know that.
When you go, she told me that. You go, who's she? The cat's mother?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very.
No.
We're very
Scott
polite.
Cleverdon is also a teacher, and we've done more than 20 years, 25, I think, of tuition of more than 5,000 people in more than 33 cities in 16 countries. We've done it in English, we've done it in French, in Spanish, also in Russian and Polish one time. Anyway, we were international school. Now we are an international community of people, professionals, that they want to help each other with projects and with interesting news and all of what we can offer, not only us, but people that they had been also interviewing in all in every day of the week, because that's what we do. Since the pandemic, what we do is to reach out and form this part of us, this community called Familia de Cine, Familia of Cinema. And there we are. If you want to join us, to be great. We are through Patreon. You can also join us. Is patreon.com. Here you have it. /Assumpta Serna. So here you're going to help us if you want to have these videos that we're going to do once a week in English, and the rest of it is also in Spanish, isn't it, Scott?
Absolutely. You want to do the next bit in Spanish?
Yes, please.
Voy a hacer la siguiente parte en español. No, so this is something that we started 3 years ago, 3 weeks after the confinement kicked in. I refuse to call it a pandemic anymore. I'm terribly sorry. Since we were all told to not leave our houses, but we decided to go on. We decided to, on Facebook, with a laptop and a microphone, decided to go live and talk about the thing that we'd been doing for as Assumpta just said, about 20 years, which is teaching film acting, very specifically film acting. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, Assumpta.
Yeah, I like to know this thing because we started in 2000, so it's exactly 23 years, not 20,000 years, 23 years.
We have been teaching for 20,000 years. That's what we've been doing. Yeah.
23 years we've been doing the first university course in the specialty in acting on camera. Was the first one that it was done here in Europe, and also some wonderful schools from London. We had been advising them in the past for more than 40 years. We were there in some conferences to actually give our opinion on how this specialty of acting on camera should be.
Did you just say 40 years?
40 years? I didn't
40,
say
40.
25, 23. 23 years. We started in 2000, and reality 1999, but there's
you were when we went to London.
And we went to London was 2006.
So you say it sounded like 40 years.
No?
For 40
4
years.
4 years. 4 years. 4 years.
We were invited by the drama schools, the accredited drama schools in the UK, that they had a symposium every year on film acting. And given the fact that that's all we've ever done, we don't teach theatre or anything else like that, it seemed like a perfect place to invite us to, and for us to share what it was and what it is that we do. And that's what I want to get to today. I'm gonna go do the magic, okay? Can I do that?
Yes,
you have
please.
to push this button. You see this button here?
Yes.
You got the button?
Yes,
I got the button here? All right. So here we go. Today we're going to be talking about training, good, bad, and the downright dangerous. Well, welcome to everybody, and here we are. So this is something that we've talked about, we've touched upon briefly on other occasions, and it's always the sort of thing that comes back to us. There are certain questions that always come up with people here in Spain, which is where we are right now, in Madrid, el capital, the capital of Spain. And one of the questions that people always do, and they always ask you because they think it's really clever, they go, the question is, un actor se nace o se hace, right? Which means is it born or is it made, right? That's effectively what that does. And everybody asks you the question like nobody's ever thought of the question before ever, right? Everybody always does that. And the real answer is, which they're always very disappointed to hear, which is it's really a bit of both. It's a little bit like nurture or nature. That's the other question that we have going on here.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that everybody, I mean, in my experience teaching, more than 5,000 people, not only in acting, also in communication that we do also courses with very interesting, people that they have nothing to do with being actors, but, teachers, lawyers, priests. So what we discovered is really that there is certain values that you have to hold next to your very, very close to your heart to be able to communicate with the passion that it deserves, the people that they are listening, right? That is one thing. But I wanted also to go one step before, which is why we do that. And why we do that is something that we discovered it along our journey. And you, Scott, you were saying that
yes,
you do it because you wanted this tuition that you never got in your school.
Well, it's certainly one of the things. Look, I went to the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama when it was still called the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. Now it's called the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. Why they use a French word when there's a perfectly good English word, which is conservatory, I will never know, but, Anyway. Suffice to say that I did a full-blown classical training at the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama right at the start of the 90s. I was there for 3 years with various other actors, and many people who have subsequently become household names. And the training was very classical. It was Shakespeare. It was voice. It was movement. It was fencing. It was dance. It was singing, which I was terrible at and very scared of. And we did plays, one after the other, in the wonderful theatres, the New Athenaeum and the Studio Theatre, and all over the place. We did every single thing you could possibly imagine. And then what happened was I moved to London, got an agent, and I started working in film and television. And the minute that I stepped on a film set or a TV set, I knew absolutely nothing about what was going on. I didn't know what my relationship with the camera was. I didn't know where I was supposed to stand. I didn't know what all these people were doing. There's just hundreds of them all standing about. I wasn't aware of the artifice of everything that existed outside of the frame they were shooting. I just didn't know how it worked. So when I finally, about 5 years later, had my own revelations about how it worked, my relationship with the camera, what was going on the set, where I was supposed to stand, and exactly what all of these hundreds of people were actually doing, I figured that why didn't somebody tell me that when I spent 3 years in a drama school being trained how to be an actor, when the majority of my work, particularly the work that's going to pay me, is going to be in those particular contexts? And the thing I have to say is that I think it was negligent for them not to do that. I understand why not, because it's very, very difficult. You could take somebody who has enormous experience of working on camera, but they haven't considered or contemplated how they're actually going to teach anybody yet. And then you can take somebody who's a great teacher, but unless they can apply that teaching and make it work within the context, confines, time frame, pressure, etc. of a film or television shoot, then it's completely irrelevant. So our training was born of that need to give people that secret, intimate knowledge that was going to save their asses when they hit a film set for the first time. The thing is that you really can't learn how to act on camera if you're not acting on camera. You really can't really learn how to act in theatre unless you're on a stage in front of people. Fortunately, with the camera, we can recreate the conditions and make it feel like virtually everything that you're going to feel when you're on a film set. The things you're not going to feel like is you're not getting paid, and there's a hell of a lot more pressure on a real film set from one point of view and a hell of a lot less on other. There's a curious thing that we've discovered in our classes and courses, that people have so much more pressure when they're doing a course with us than they would actually have if they were probably working. Why is that? Well, they got the job. Nobody's going to fire them, hopefully. But that's basically the sum total of why we do what we did, and really how our training is in many ways a reaction to the absence of useful training, which in my particular case that I didn't get.
For film and television, yes.
Yeah.
And so what we discovered along, that is the other question, that's the other answer that I would like to give it you, because it was very interesting. Our revelations, I mean, we never stopped having revelations, even now when we are in a course or we always are, thinking a better way of saying it, better way of feeling it, better way of explaining to others. So you never finish to have these revelations. But one of the main revelations that we had, apart from the acting jobs, the things that we discovered about the job of acting, was that everybody has a wonderful world, that if you put the camera on the right place, you can actually enjoy tremendously if this person is really able to have this commitment to communicate. So this observer, this kind of witness that it was the camera, was such an objective and beautiful eyewitness that for us, we had to take out everything that was an obstacle for they to flourish. What were these obstacles? Well, first of all, was a tuition that was not applicable to the actual camera, which means all the wonderful exercises to project the voice, that is out of the question when you are doing audiovisual, cinema and TV. And a lot of other things inside, what is this new medium, which is audiovisual. So all these techniques, sometimes they are not very, practical to do. Then the other revelation we had is that it had to be a practical, hands-on tuition, that it couldn't be like a theoretical thing. It had to be the people more immersed our students more immersed with a movie set, the better we're learning, right?
So yeah, one of the things that happens is, and the other reason that people don't do it very often, is to actually create the context and the true dynamic of a film shoot, which is necessary when you want to learn how to act on camera, is that you need a whole bunch of other people to work with you. You need a director of photography, ideally. You need a camera operator. You need a sound person, and that's the minimum that you're going to need. And if you don't have those people, well, then really you're just in a room with a handy cam and somebody switching the camera off and on. The dynamic in the relationship between camera and actor is the entire key to this entire process. There's a triangle that happens, the contact between the actor and the camera and the actor and the microphone. Now, you may notice that I haven't actually mentioned the other actor or the actors in the scene, because I've got bad news for you. They don't matter. They're not that important. Because remember, when the camera's on you, the camera wants to see you, what you're doing, what you're thinking, occasionally what you're saying, but really where you are in the world. The difference between
think, right?
Yeah. The difference between the movie star and the working actor and the everyday actor is the movie star shares what they're thinking and going through, and we are interested in that. When you're at drama school, they teach you about moving and they teach you about talking. They may even teach you about actions and intention, but what they never really teach you about is thinking. And it's the thinking thing which makes those actors so close to us, that makes us so interested in them, and makes us still want to watch them episode after episode or movie after movie, no?
Yes. Also, another thing that was a revelation for us was the idea that our world, the world of acting in front of the public and audience, it was really full of superstitions, and tradition. Some of these tradition, were very good to understand also what you have to do to really hold, an hour or 2 hours or sometimes 6 hours of being in front of people by communicating a piece, a work, a story. But a lot of things that they're really uncomfortable. That is doing also because there is all these techniques, all the superstition that there is. No, there's this thing of the thespians do. No, Scott. This superstition is is something, like, I don't know. We act by superstition more like a scientific approach to our job.
Well, one of the things, and we're covering this in this book that we've been attempting to write for way too long.
Years, yes.
For years now. Part of the problem is, as George Bernard Shaw said, if you want to learn, read, but if you want to understand, teach. What we discovered is the longer and longer that we taught, the more and more highly attuned we became to those micro moments that were happening, and attempted to understand what motivated them, where they came from, and really what the true dynamic of, I guess what, it sounds very pretentious, but the true dynamic of human interaction is, right? Really where it comes from. A lot of people talk about the surface of it, and a lot of people talk about it in a pseudo-scientific or even mystical way. There are certain other aspects of acting that people get very, very obsessed with, and they're things which aren't particularly important. One of the things that we were always trying to work out was really where everything came from and what the dynamic was, a sort of universal field theory of what human interaction and how it actually operated, and where it came from. And one of the things that we came to the conclusion was that the greatest part of drama training is entirely based on superstitious thinking. Why is it superstitious thinking? Well, actors are under some bizarre thought or bizarre idea that emotion is important for the actor. And one of the things we've actually discovered is that nobody's interested in that. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you're thinking.
No.
Nobody cares what you're feeling.
Well,
no, they really don't care. When I say feeling's the wrong word. Nobody cares what your emotions are. They do care how you feel about things, but they don't necessarily take pleasure in see you going through some emotional state or emotional trauma.
Exactly. They want to see your thoughts. They want to see your fight against the emotion. They want to see, how do you share with them your inner thoughts. But what they really don't want is when you have already a result of everything. So uncertainty is one of the big revelations we had, because in the moment that you really are certain about something, you are already losing a lot of other people that they are still thinking that is not possible. So, uncertainty for us actors, for all the intentions, for everything that we do in life, is really a winner. So a lot of times this superstition that the actors have about things that they do is normal, because we need some patterns. Our brain works with patterns, and we are doing things because we think that leads to something. And see, if we repeat that, then we think that that's the cause why these things work.
Right? It's very interesting because I think Michael Schwimmer of the Skeptical Society, he was part of a study which was an investigation into whether superstition actually worked. People who had lucky rabbit's foots or had some kind of mantra before they went on stage, or particularly sports people. To see actually whether their superstitions worked. And I got bad news for you. They did. The superstitions worked. Now we could say, is that really because the cosmos was helping this person? Well, no, it's because the person believed the superstition worked.
Exactly.
And one of the problems that we have in terms of acting training, because an actor is on a high wire over a massive canyon. At the bottom is a river filled with alligators. That's the actor. Okay, so the actor will take whatever luck it can extort out of the universe, whatever it might be. This is why actors don't want to say the Scottish play. You see, they don't want to say Macbeth when they're in a theatre. Saying Macbeth in a theatre. In fact, our book opens with "Say Macbeth." If you're an actor, you'll have difficulty saying it out loud because you don't want to tempt the gods. theatre and religion, whether pagan or Judeo-Christian religion, is intrinsically linked with our relationship to the audience, storytelling, and the universe in many ways. When you're in a theatre, particularly we saw this when we were in the Roman theatre in Merida last year, the relationship between the actor and the audience is very much the relationship between a human being and the gods. The audience sits where the gods are. In fact, in British theatre, the balcony that's the highest in the theatre is called the gods, strangely enough. That need for calling upon supernatural forces is innate to us, not just as actors, but as human beings. And that is part of our makeup. That goes, from that we can go to Pavlov's dog. From that we can go to the experiments with pigeons, with positive reinforcement. What happens is something happens and we relate some other thing to that, and we think that caused or helped that thing in that particular place, so we keep doing it.
Yes, and it's curious because all the training of the actor, that they ever had in all these years, it had been based also in how to fight the fear. And then how we fight the fear is by instinct and also by superstition. But very few things we can do as actors to actually understand all the process intimately until the camera arrived. When the camera arrived, of course, they were other people than us that they were watching us and decide if that was good or bad. So here, we couldn't really give our opinion, and it had been like that for the first 100 and so years, 130 years. But in the moment that the camera started to become digital, and the actors could actually rewind immediately what we were doing before, what we just did, that was already, a very, very large and unknowable feeling, because you could actually repeat the experiment and do it better, right, Scott?
Yeah, one of the things that we've always been is another question that people go is, what's the difference between acting in theatre and acting on the camera? A lot of people go, well, acting on camera, you just need to do less is more, you need to make everything smaller, etc., etc. Well, that's all bollocks. It's total nonsense. What's going to work in one place is going to work in another. The only difference is the production of voice and exactly where the audience is. The most important thing being the size of the window that people are looking at you through. In a theatre, the window is enormous. It can be hundreds or even thousands of people, like we had in the Roman theatre, which holds 3,000 people, and they're spread out in a massive arc of 180 degrees in front of you. That's one thing. When on camera, what you have is not 5, 10, 100 or 1,000 people. You have one person who's observing you. Your experience when you're watching film or television, whether you're in a cinema, a movie theatre, or whether you're in front of your big screen TV, or even if you're watching it on your phone, the experiences of you and what's going on screen. The great thing is, if you're watching a comedy with a whole bunch of other people, you'll laugh and their laughter will become infectious and you'll enjoy yourself in a completely different way, but it will never be able to replace the experience, the live experience of watching theatre in a theatre with an audience and live actors on stage. That's absolutely a given. The difference is that when you're on stage, you, as the actor, can never, ever personally experience, not see, experience what it is to watch yourself on stage. Now, if it's recorded, it's not a good indication of what how the play works, because you do not have the experience of being there and seeing those live people speaking at that moment in time, surrounded by an audience. It's impossible to recreate. And in that, you need faith. You need faith in your director, who's going to protect you and stop you from doing something stupid. You need faith in the writer, whose words are going to be effective enough that everybody's going to understand the story. You need faith in the lighting guys, that people can see you. You need faith in the set design, that people are going to be not confused, but it's going to augment the story you're attempting to tell. You need faith in absolutely everybody, because you can never, ever see your own performance. On the other side, when you're working on camera, what that really means is you can stop the tape, play it back, and see it as any other audience member would see it. And thus, you're capable, as Assumpta says, of repeating the experiment, improving it, making it work better, and understanding what worked in the first place.
Here, Scott wrote in the books, I just want to read to you one paragraph that he wrote. Says, the painter can see his brush and paint and canvas, but the musician can also hear their instrument, but the actor is like a blindfolded painter that must trust that the brush marks on the canvas to paint a smile. The musician that can only imagine what is his instrument sounds like, but what the actor is doing is engaging many senses of the audience simultaneously. The actor can only ever hope to watch it afterwards if it was recorded, and that is not, as we saw, an experience that it reflects exactly the experience of one member of the audience.
The example I always give that at the start of the 20th century, the human being, the fastest time he had over 100 meters was about 12 to 13 seconds. I'm not entirely sure the precise number, but it wasn't what it is today. Now, the question is, are people bigger, faster, stronger today? Well, yeah. And the question is why? Is it their genetics? Or is it their training, the application of science, of nutrition, of sports psychology, the technology in running shoes and the surface of the track? You see, there's many other things that people engage in and they are improved over time with science and understanding. The curious thing is that actors, acting and their training still live in the 19th century, and the people who train in those particular contexts are afraid. They're afraid. They're frightened of the necessities of the modern actor. And that's something that we've always attempted to move forward into, is to say, all right, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's great if you want to do something like that. However, what are we going to do when we're going to go to the set tomorrow morning? What are we going to find? What do they need from us? What do we need from them? And what does everybody need to get this done?
Faith is good, but blind faith is dangerous. And as actors, we have a tremendous mission after this camera that we can experience everything that we do, and we can. It's not actually control it; it's actually go with it. It's actually understand the frame and fill it with exactly what the things that the audience, or how you say that, the espectador.
The viewer.
How the viewer...
you say it's like the audience member, like the audience in the theatre, but it would be... You could say audience on camera as well, but it would, you would say more like the viewer.
The viewer. So, and you can put yourself as a viewer, really, but not immediately, That's why even now that there is a lot of, cameras on your pocket and that you can, communicate... It's not clear that the people can understand what they are doing when they communicate. I've seen a lot of people that they think that they are, for some strange reason, that they are okay when they communicate in camera, and they are awful. They are really giving the wrong notes,
Yeah, I would. To a degree, but there's also something else which is very interesting, which is really a reconfiguring of our relationship with how we exist and how we present ourselves on camera. All of us over the past 3 years, whether we liked it or not, have had the opportunity to take part in Skype, Zoom, FaceTime, any one of a number of face-to-face meetings. This is how we kept in touch with our grandmothers. This is how we spoke to our loved ones. This is how we reconnected with the friends that we hadn't spoken to in a very, very long time to go, well, can't leave the house, eh? What a thing is that? So we all have a different relationship with how we appear on screens right now. Before, when somebody pulled out a camera, everybody was like, no, don't take my picture. For the most part, nobody cares anymore because we all take 50 pictures every single day, whether it's of our beautiful cappuccino or the sandwich that they just brought us or the sunset or a bird in the sky. It's second nature to us now. So much of the time we find ourselves recording things as opposed to experiencing them. We show them to people afterwards and say, look what I could have experienced if I hadn't been taking this picture. That's changed enormously the young actors' relationship with their own image on screen. And I believe that young actors are better prepared for this now than ever before when it comes to acting on camera. Because it was something that we didn't have in our generation. Absolutely nothing close to it, as far as I'm concerned. It was if you wanted to go and like the idea of the self-tape now that everybody shoots with their own smartphone, the only way you could have done that back in the day would be pay for a little studio, pay for a guy with a camera, pay for absolutely everything. It would have cost an arm and a leg.
Of course. No, but right now, we have a wonderful avenue of really scientifically understanding what we are doing in front of a camera, not for control, not for that, but for actually being in the creative way, in being in the right. In the right creative path with the others in a set, because that is also something that you have to learn by doing. So how we can go from this blind faith from this superstition to the actual right attitude. For me, that would be the right attitude would be the critical thinking. That is something that you, Scott, do very nicely all your
Don't
life.
confuse critical thinking with cynical thinking. That's the important thing.
Not cynical. You've never been cynical.
I can be pretty cynical.
Well,
I'm pretty cynical about public transport in London, but that's a different question.
That's a different question. So this tell us about this critical thinking, because I think that is the only arma, how you say,
weapon.
Only tool that we have to really understand ourselves better as actors.
Okay, let's put it this way. When I'm talking about critical thinking in terms of acting training, if you have doubts, if you have questions, and you ask those questions, if the person who's training you doesn't have an answer, or they say that the answer isn't important, then ask them why. There's very often somebody will ask me something and I go, I don't know. I'm going to have to try and work that out, right? But for the most part, I'm never going to ask somebody to do something, or I'm never going to tell somebody something that if I extrapolate it, it makes no sense. That's just the necessity of it. This Socratic method where we have to come up with an idea, see how the idea can work, and then battle with the idea to try and take the idea down, attack it from all sides, and if it still stands, then maybe the idea is a good one. Maybe the concept is a good one. Maybe it will go from being theory to something which is actually teachable, something which is usable, something which is useful. Because one of the greatest problems that we have in acting training is that it's not very useful at the end of the day. I had a great teacher when I was at school. He was a wonderful director. I think he was a greater director than he was a teacher. And we were doing a class on sense memory. And afterwards I asked him, isn't this sense memory just kind of self-hypnosis? Now, sense memory is where you imagine yourself with an imaginary lemon in your hand, and you try to smell the lemon, and you try to bite into the lemon, and have a physical reaction to it. And there were people in the class, their mouths were watering, they could smell the lemon and everything else. I could never get there, basically because intellectually I went, this is some form of self-hypnosis or delusion. And I said that to him, and he said, stop thinking so much. No. One of the things I've realized about actors who think too much is that you actually have to give them something useful and more interesting to think about. There's nothing wrong with thinking too much. The trouble is that when people put things on our desk and tell us that these things are important but refuse to explain why they're important, then we get bored, we get frustrated, and our critical thinking kicks in, or even our cynical thinking. And we go, yeah, but what the hell has that got to do with anything? Or as my grandmother would say, what's that got to do with the price of fish? And in terms of critical thinking, whether we're talking about emotional memory, where we're talking about sense memory, where we're talking about any one of a range of other different tricks and techniques, we have to really ask ourselves, how the hell am I going to use this when somebody says, roll camera, sound, camera speed, mark it, scene 55, shot 52, take 1, and they hit click on the clapperboard or on the slate. Are any of those things going to be useful to us? Or do we have to pare everything down, reduce everything so we are just acting the simplest and most dynamic elements of any particular moment or scene?
Of course. That is why, to really fight this blind faith, to really don't be acting by superstition or intuition, which is also a good thing to do, but not all the time and not always. This critical thinking, you have to approach your job in a point of view that is scientific, meaning knowing that you can actually be on a safe place where you can experiment, try it again, and see it, watch it, and try it again and do it better. So and then to understand why this thing, particularly that you do, works better than the other, not because you fail. It's because you have to exactly experiment on what you are doing to actually getting better. No, so for us, that's the title of our book. The Science of Acting is really what is the asignatura pendiente.
Asignatura pendiente. There's a good one. Sort of like the it says a future subject. That's
a future subject. Yes, a future subject. Because how we use this approach is what is going to make us, stars. Because the way that the people do when they are in front of a camera is when they are a profound understanding of what the camera means, what the lenses mean, when they integrate everything that all the other creative people want actually to put also in that particular frame, and you play it with commitment and grace.
The question is, it's interesting because Ellie, I have to say hello to Crystal, who says we both look great, by the way. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Crystal. That's very sweet of you. And Jim, who's here. Good evening to you, sir. Ellie never mentioned that name or address in yellow. It's very interesting, the reason behind the superstitions. Very often, the reason behind many superstitions, they're actually justified. This is something we touch on in the book, which is the difference between actual truth and metaphorical truth. Very often, something isn't actually true, but the results of treating it as true are beneficial. The most obvious and cited one is a porcupine. Very often people think it can shoot its spines out, so that's why it must be avoided. Porcupines can't shoot their spines out, they don't do that, but their spines are usually infected with all sorts of nasty bacteria, and they're very aggressive animals. So if you can treat them like it shoots its spines and you stay the hell away from them, you'll be doing okay, thank you very much. There's a lot of other things. For example, the idea of walking under a ladder. It's supposed to represent the gateway between heaven and hell. That's one of the reasons it's supposed to be unlucky. But in actual fact, we all realize that walking underneath a ladder is usually pretty stupid, because particularly if somebody's up the ladder. So there we have the difference between metaphorical truth and actual truth and real truth. True truth, if you want to say it like that. In fact, truth is one of those words that we could debate all day, and that's why when it comes to acting, one of the things that we always suggest that people take note of is not truth, which is imminently debatable, and where we are in the 21st century seems to be more debatable than ever. But what we can deal with is what's authentic. And what's authentic is something personal, something that you know is real for you and feels real in the moment. Whether it's truthful or not, who's to say? I don't know what truthful is, particularly in any given moment. We all react in ways that they're peculiar and different.
But you always have the sense of truth. You recognize it because it comes from the conservation of your species, really. That's the first thing that the brain does, recognize if something is truthful or not. And we are very good at it, everybody. Perhaps they cannot know why this thing doesn't work or how it would work better. That is the job, of us and actors to know, and also, the teachers to teach us how we do it. But it's true that what a lot of people, they don't know how to analyze. They know how to analyze a movie. They know how to analyze for forever. This movement of the camera, this lighting, but they don't know how to analyze actors. Even now, when I see the comments of casting directors or directors about an acting thing, it is resuming. It can be resumed by saying, I like it or I don't like it, which is a very poor judgment. If you ask
but I think for the most part, I think we need to go a little easy on them, and I'll tell you why. Is that I don't think that we as people are armed with the correct vocabulary to really do a detailed and precise critique of acting per se, because and this is important, there are so many other things which influence our relationship with what we see on screen that the actor's part of it is the most visible, but it's a smaller percentage than 100 in terms of what it comes to. There's a reason why actors win roles for they win prizes, they win Oscars for playing certain types of roles, and it's got more to do with the role than the actor. It's like Ricky Gervais, his character said in the TV show Extras, when he told Kate Winslet, Kate Winslet tells him, she says, "You win an Oscar if you play a mental," right? And he said, "If you want to win she said she's playing the nun who rescues Jewish prisoners because she wants to win awards." And she did, ironically enough, afterwards. And he went, "Look, I told you." And what does that have to do with is the characters that we find compelling, we find moving in film and television, and the ones that go on to win awards are very often 25%, for example. I did an investigation of this. Approximately 25 to 30% of all the roles that actors played that were nominated for Oscars, leading actor, actress, and supporting actor and actress, since the year 2000, 30% of them, they were playing real people. Okay? So they were already playing somebody who was tainted with authenticity. That's why there's so many biopics, musicians. You've got
Elvis.
You have Elvis Presley. You have Elton John. You have Freddie Mercury. The list goes on. Of people who have been nominated or won for playing people that we had a prior emotional connection with. It's as if the actor was already playing a song that we knew the words of. So what does that mean? That means that the actor's job and how that job impresses people is so intrinsically linked with the roles they have the opportunity to play. And that's another thing you should notice. When an actor wins an Oscar, you'll find the next 2 or 3 movies that they do are all movies where they could win another Oscar in. That's absolutely a given. Very few people get nominated and then go off and do a kung fu movie. Everybody's like, he was a man struggling with his sexuality. He was a man who, it's always like he wasn't like other kids.
But what I was wanting to say, I said, well, don't go really hard into that. I want to make a.
I'm sorry. You were talking specifically about how people are incapable of actually critiquing actors with any degree of precision.
Exactly. So good can be great, can be amazing, can be exceptional, can be awesome, can be incredible, can be bad, can be awful, terrible, disgusting, whatever. But it's not good and bad is not really precise because So how we do these levels, no? How we have really to be conscious, like in the stories, we develop this wonderful scientific way of knowing why a story works. We have to understand why, perhaps not casting directors, perhaps not directors, but actors, yes. Actors, we need to know why something works and how precisely and in detail. And we have to be athletes on what we are doing, like be the best, because yes, if not, someone in the street perhaps can do it, because since they want that naturalistic thing, then everybody can do it. No, not everybody can do it, not everybody should do it, and not everybody had the means alone to understand why this thing works.
When you go to a casting, when you are going up for a job, the assumption is that you're an actor. That you're going to go and do a performance, that you got your pages or whatever it's going to be. You're going to go in there and you're going to give them something which they can imagine is going to be in their finished product. It's already a trap because you're going in there and you're going there in there as an actor to perform per se. One of the things that has happened to us, and I blame the actor more than I necessarily blame the directors and the filmmakers, is that there's a great proliferation of people who are not actors who end up in movies. For the most part, they don't end up in TV shows. You don't have non-actors in TV shows. You know why? an actor wouldn't put up with that bullshit. They wouldn't tolerate that nonsense for any length of time. They'd be like, I'm out of here. What time? 5 a.m.? No, I'm sorry. I got better things to do with my evening.
3
a.m.? What? So people don't tolerate it too long. It's a kind of peculiar thing like that. One of the things that we always have to be very conscious of as actors is this idea that we could possibly bring our A game, be the best that we could possibly be at 9:30 in the morning when we haven't spoken to anybody and we've barely had a cup of coffee and we've got to walk in there and play the King of Flanders or whatever it might be. It's a very, very strange ask. And some people are very good at it and some people are very bad at it. We have the advantage now, we have this concept of the self-tape where people record their own auditions. But that's also a false economy because everybody knows who has to do a self-tape. That's your day ruined. Your day's over. That's your day. You're going to spend most of that, and hopefully you got somebody who loves you enough and cares for you enough to read in with you and not say at the end of the day, that's it, I'm never doing that with you again. I hate you. I really hate you. So getting back to what you were saying about good and bad. Mm-hmm. I just had a script class with our esteemed colleague Ellie here. Ellie hates Jim Carrey and hates Adam Sandler, right? And she doesn't like Steve Martin.
Wow.
Right? Now, we could stand up and say, well, a lot of other people do like them. And in fact, both Jim Carrey and Adam Sandler have done serious movies in which they do extraordinary performances that very few other people would be able to match in any way or another. They both bring a unique, irreverent style and commitment to whatever the hell it is that they're doing.
It's true. That enters into prejudices about, we've seen one movie and she was exaggerated or whatever, and then we are thinking that everything. Yeah, but
this gets me back to this whole thing, which is important, that we may hate something, but we can still admit that it works. Mm-hmm. And that's a very important thing in relationship to our own particular performance, our own particular way of acting. When we see what we've done on screen, for example, we have to ask ourselves, does it work? Not, do I like it? Because, who's going to like it? I mean, if you're like, I saw it. Who
cares if you like it or
was
not?
Brilliant.
Yeah,
No.
Who cares if you like it or not?
No. Nobody gives a damn. So the important thing is to look at it and go, does it work? Look, Crystal says,
me too.
Me too. Yeah, and Moonsy Edit says, bro, it's carnage. Yes, it is. The funny thing is where Ellie says, you're telling me things that have changed in the past 50 years. I have to tell you, yes, they have just a little bit. Particularly something that nobody ever imagined which was going to happen, which was the fact that we'd all carry around super high-tech, high-definition cameras in our pockets with fairly reasonable sound.
Yeah, but it's like carrying a violin. If you don't know how to work with it.
If you don't know how to play it, it doesn't sound good.
So,
Wow, check that out. Nice point, Assumpta.
No, I mean, critiquing an actor's work,
Mm-hmm.
in a movie or TV show is not, we cannot say, well, I like it or I don't like it. We cannot say that. We cannot say that now, today, and also as actors, as a professional people. We have to give, a way to take away all the prejudices that we might have and understand scientifically why this thing, perhaps we don't like it, but it works, or perhaps we don't like it and it doesn't work. But they are two different things, because if not, a lot of books have been written about a story and how it works and how it's not working. And there are certain rules that they are really truth right now, that we know that they have been developing for the last 2,000 years of us explaining our stories. And those are the essences of everything. Well, this essence of why an actor is really truthful, then we should know. We should know. We have to understand why we can critique this actor work in a movie or TV show that is not only I like it, I don't like it. Critiquing our own work is a little bit more difficult because we have certain opinions about ourselves. We have also certain images of ourselves that is really hard to sometimes compare what we are seeing and watching. We have some hang-ups about how we would like to be, and we are not. And so these things interfere in our clean judgment on why this thing works or doesn't work. And sometimes you have to listen to others to actually understand what you have to see when you're watching yourself.
There's another thing as well, is that there's actors who I know personally and I don't like them. And it's very difficult because I have, when I watch them acting, I was like, I don't like that. I don't like it because I know the guy or I know the girl. And I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like what you do. And that's not right. So I have to fight it. I actually have to fight that. No, okay, yeah, all right. What they do is great. And I think anybody who's spent time in a drama school, you're going to have people who are really, really effective and people who are not effective, people who are great people and people who are dicks, basically. And very often the person who was really, really effective was a dick. Truly, and sometimes those people go on and they have great careers and they do very well and everything else. The fact of the matter is that we have to kind of get by that and go, did we do what we were supposed to do in the best way we could do it?
Yes, but I wanted to compare what scientifically had been done, the approach of saying why a story works, and I want to compare it with why an acting works. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I want to compare.
All right, I'm there. I'm all ears. Bring it on.
No. It's because we have to have this approach. We have to have this scientific approach when we watch ourselves. And I saw a lot of people that they are constantly doing even live performances like what we are doing now today. Well, I don't see it as a performance, but anyway, communication, live communication, and they don't like to see themselves, and I don't understand that. I think that I don't need to see, first of all, what I do. I know exactly what I do, and I know exactly how the people more or less are thinking when I'm projecting things. Why? Because I've been working on this for the entire 45 years 45 years of my career.
45 years.
That's
years.
What an actor does. An actor is all the time. It's not that it's faking or anything. It understands what is the authenticity by simply doing it.
It's something that Ralph Richardson said when he was close to the end of his life. He must have been in his late 80s, early 90s. He said, "It's such a shame that I'm nearing the end. I was just about to work out how to do it."
Yes, I was talking today with a wonderful man actor called Miguel Reyan, who actually is going to help us with a code of good practices and all this. And he was saying, yes, it's I feel like now I know what I'm doing in camera. And I'm 70 something. It takes a long time. It takes a long time because we are not prepared. We didn't have these safe places where we can actually learn. We don't have these teachers that they can actually teach. One of the things that is more the pity of what we are doing, and is because there is very few people that they have been doing what we are doing, Scott, which is this watching so many people in front of a camera, understanding, I don't know, we've been, I don't know how many hours, more than...
Well, one of the things that we learned pretty early and often was that you can't try to make the actor into the actor that you want them to be. No. You have to let them be the best version of the actor they can be at that particular moment. And it's different today than it will be tomorrow. And everybody's on this sort of like endless journey to define the relationship with themselves and what they do. And I suppose that goes for many physical or representational professions. Probably got like singing or dancing or art to whatever it is. So until everybody finds their own mojo, and the most important thing people can do is you need to be able to nudge people back to their sort of like natural, authentic state as much as possible, and then allow it to be influenced by this fictional, imaginary circumstance that they're given, so they can allow us to believe it's real for that minute.
Yeah, you have, actor has to not only by doing it, they have also to have some safe place where they can actually be wrong, that they can experience things, that they can stretch their limits,
that they can make a complete idiot
a complete idiot of themselves. That's why one of the other revelations we had at the beginning of our journey as teachers of acting on camera was how we had to be careful, and that's, I think, what we really knew how to do better at the end, because we were really watching ourselves closely, to not direct the person, because the most wonderful thing that we could actually teach them is just they have to understand what they are doing. We cannot direct them as a director directs ourselves in a movie.
No,
I want that. Those are the results. No, we have to give them the tools for them to understand what they did and how to do it better next take.
Well, one of the important things about that not directing thing is that there is already a kind of there's a hierarchy, there's a status relationship in terms of whether you're coaching or training or teaching somebody and the student. Okay, that's what it is. What we always tell people is, other actors, we're just you tomorrow. That's all. That's the only thing that's important there. And the other thing is that everybody has to feel like they can invest in what they're doing. They can use their own imaginations. Their creativity is theirs, and they're not simply following orders. One of the most deadly things that you find is when an actor waits to be directed.
Oh, that's awful.
Okay, but the real problem is, you got to remember this. There's the head of the lighting department, head of the sound department, head of the camera department, head of production. There's all these different heads, and unfortunately, you're an actor. That means when you're in front of the camera, you're the head of the acting department. You have, a department head level of responsibility there. You're also supposed to bring your creativity, your experience, your ideas, and your capacity to do your job. You got to bring that to the game. That's what you're there for.
Yeah, it's important as teachers of acting on camera, not to direct them. You have to give them the tools so that they can actually understand profoundly what it works and what it doesn't. And at the moment, because when you do that, after you revise your work, you have another set of mind. Is really never the same. It has to be really there. So that's why this safe place, which is a school of acting on camera, is really a speciality that we think we master, that we think that is really something that the actors need today. It's also our mission every day. is what really makes us understand that there is a very big avenue of things to explore and to better. When we see actors that they do actually have these spaces or had these spaces and they master that, they would say that is great, few actors have that, and it's also because experience, also because you sometimes in this job you have circumstances where you can actually learn very, very much, very fast, because the people around you, they are nice people, and you are working really together with them. But that happens very little times, and when an actor is in a set of television or something like that, it has to be, as we say, director's proof.
Director proof.
Director proof.
Yeah, well, one of the issues is whether it's your first day on a movie set or whether you've done this 1,000 times before. When they call action and you've got to say your line, you have exactly the same responsibility as the other actor. And there's nothing more difficult than working on a set for one day. There's absolutely nothing more complicated or difficult than that, because you don't know anybody, you don't know their speed, their tempo, you don't know how they work, you don't know who that guy is. You're kind of back to reset where you were when it all started all over again, and it's a little bit complicated like that. The important things for us in terms of training actors is to pare everything down, simplify absolutely everything, work it out what you want to do, what you're trying to do, why can't you do it. And there's a list of other minor things that you might already process intellectually. If you're wearing a military uniform, you're going to walk in a particular way. It influences you. If you are of a particular status or you have a particular accent, if you have a particular relationship with someone. If and the thing that we need to think about is not say, how am I going to act this? We need to say, how would I do this if this was me? That's how we kind of have to kick off. If this was me in these circumstances. Look, it's interesting. Crystal here, she says, hang on a second. Crystal here, she says, me too. I think she's talking about Adam Sandler and you know who, and Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Poor thing.
Jim Talbot says an interesting thing. He says, I tried to watch my old streams, and I always said to myself, you look like a dick. What are you doing?
Yeah, but the thing is, you might go, you look like a dick, but the question is, does what you're doing work? Is it effective? Get past the way you sound, the way you look, and everything else. Are you passing the time? Are you communicating with people? Are you keeping the ball in the air? And at the end of the day, that's pretty much all it is. You can love it or hate it, but that's really what it comes down to.
There is something that the people watch when they see you, that if you are not objective, you can never see it. You can never see yourself as the others see you. And that switch to the objective side of watching yourself is, first of all, you have to see yourself a lot, but not alone, but with someone that can actually tell you honestly what they think about it, and you believe in it. And you believe in this person, and you understand why they are saying it, and you actually see that, yes, what they say is actually true. And, and that is if that happens, then is an enormous step that you bring to your career, to yourself, to your image, to the things that you want to do in front of a camera. So, being objective when you're seeing, you have to see also others doing things as you, as an actor. That's why a safe environment with people around you, like students, is the best that you can do to be able to understand. Because these people that you start seeing and watching, understanding also why it doesn't work, these things are going to happen to you. These things are something that you learn from them. So you are all in an environment where you can actually start seeing and watching yourself like the others do, because sometimes that is the most difficult thing that one can have. I always say that one good thing about doing this step towards objectivity is to remember exactly what you think when you see someone that you like. Because, of course, if you see someone that you don't like, then all these prejudices about, they're going to come out. No, you have to watch yourself watching an actor that you like. What do you do? Are you really conscious of the nose, of this thing that you don't like of yourself, or this thing that you don't like yourself?
You mean the nose? You don't mean the nose?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
What are you watching? You never watch what this person is doing. You really watch what the actual energy that she wants to communicate.
You're really watching what they're thinking. There's a curious thing that happens to us when we watch ourselves on camera. For the most part, the first thing is that we're seeing ourselves with our faces as everybody else sees them. Our faces in a mirror are reversed to us. But when we see our faces on screen, that's how everybody sees us. Bad news, that's what we look like. So we have that, first of all. The next thing is that there's nobody in the world who looks like us, unless we have a twin, right? Nobody looks like us. Nobody speaks like us. Nobody moves like us. So it's sort of jarring. And what we think that we look and sound like is usually vastly different from the truth. Okay, because of our relationship with our own voices, for example. We hear that through the bones of our face, our head, our muscles, our blood, our sinew. All of those different things affect the way that we sound. There's another thing that's happened over the past 10 years, or really the past 13 years, I suppose, with the advent of smartphones, is that we are all more accustomed to hear what we sound like, whether it's recorded in messages or, whatever it might be, or along with video. So this is not something which is very, very not so strange anymore. We all have access and the capability of seeing what we look like and hearing what we sound like. those are givens, and sometimes advice of it's a little bit like Jordan Peterson says, treat yourself like somebody who is in your care, which is about being nice to yourself.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to be as generous to ourselves as we are capable of being generous to others.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why it's very dangerous to be very cynical, derogatory, envious, jealous, and negative towards other people and what they do if they don't warrant it. And most people don't warrant it.
You see, Jim, what you wrote here, you actually know it. Look, it says, a lot of people used to join me in watch and some took part in it. I enjoyed doing it, but seeing myself was a big no. What I did love is when I was streaming, is that I was making people laugh and helping them with stuff they couldn't do. Exactly. That is the exact thing that I wanted to say. Is the point of view of being objective. What is behind? What is your why? What is your intention? What is your action? Because that is what they see. They see you wanting to help them, and that's what that's why they clock in you. That's why they hang in there.
And that's the other
they
reason.
had recognized this why.
Yeah,
and that is exactly the why of a story. Why the story works because it achieves what is set up to do.
Yes, the other aspect to what Jim's doing, whether you're streaming or whatever it might be, there's another reason why that's very fulfilling is because you're doing something which isn't for you and thus is meaningful. When we do things for other people, and whether it might be friends, family, or even more so people we do not know, those meaningful experiences, moments, exchanges of thoughts, ideas, of commonality, of positivity, those are meat and potatoes to us, particularly to men. It's very, very important that we're useful. It's an important thing that this is something that I talk about to a great degree is that all the people who end their lives in unhappy ways, the most common thing that they say at the end, by word or by note, is, I'm useless. The loss of usefulness, of meaning, is one of the most devastating things that we can all have. And it's one of the reasons that why we should always, in any particular context, give up our seat to the person who needs it and be positive to the person who's putting themselves out there and doing something which is new, which is different, which is difficult, which really puts them in a position where they're exposed. Because anything good isn't easy. That's just the given. Mm-hmm. We have to put ourselves in harm's way sometimes to do the right thing.
The people are really moved by that, They really like something when they see that it is really true, that what you're saying or what you're doing, it accomplishes the thing that they see that you want to do, right? So that is true with a story, and is true with people, communication with someone, If we see that something is fake, that's why we say all the time authenticity, because that is really a winner. Is really something, And what happens with the authenticity is, this margin that I had there when another thought appeared and then it started to be uncertain. That is the truth. People are very uncertain too when they are talking.
And that's one of the issues we have in this strange post-modernistic age that we live in, where authenticity and truth has now become entirely subjective. So people, and what they said in the Salem witch trials, all those people were burned at the stake through something called spectral evidence, which is nothing more than subjective truth, which is, it's my truth.
Yes.
And the trouble with my truth is that it's usually not anything close to the truth. Look, I think we should finish here today. Look,
okay.
No. Crystal said this. Crystal who had a very good point to make. So we're talking about this when we're talking about directing and being directed. She says, I figure I do what I do, and if they need it different, they will tell me. If they don't, then I figure I'm doing it the way that works. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you got a good director, he will come up, and I always say to directors, the best piece of direction that you can give somebody, if it's working, is this. That's all you need.
It's all you need
Just
to
keep-
continue,
Just keep going.
to keep going, to
And
keep creative.
And she says,
to
I
keep-
do focus on what I could do as that person in that place and time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Those are the very small, important things. And very often what's important to you is not the other person. It's usually ourselves. You think about it. It's the reason we pick our nose when we stop at a red light. It's because we're returning to our bodies. We're returning to our physical selves, because the act of driving is a completely out-of-body experience.
Yes.
You know, it's literally an out-of-body experience. It's sometimes, if you ever play a racing video game, the camera will be behind the car. Yeah, it's as existential as if you were inside the car.
Don't tell about pilots and planes. I don't know what they do.
No, it's
something that is real.
Very, 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 very peculiar. No, look, it's like Jim says. He says
That's very true. You
he's-
saw quite a few times when I was running around with people on Elite.
Elite is a space simulation game, which is a one-to-one
Milky Way.
representation of the Milky Way. It's quite spectacular. And Jim, I flew with him in a squadron in various times, and the most exciting and fun thing you could do is to feel that you're all in the same virtual space doing something extraordinary
Exactly.
and communicating with one another.
Well, that is exactly why also there is a very big hook of the acting on cameras, because you have this team, and everyone needs everyone. That is really something that you can learn only by doing it, because those are the people, and the energy, everything that it goes in with that particular moment in time. You cannot repeat in another moment in time with another people.
It's a little bit like if you can imagine, there's a human castle of tens, if not hundreds, of people forming. At the top of this castle, there's a flagpole. The actor, our job is to clamber up everybody else, get to the flagpole, and hoist the flag. Everybody sees the guy pulling the flag up the pole, but if it wasn't for everybody else, the flag would be still sitting in the dirt. And that
And there'll be no castle.
And there'd be no castle. And that's the when you're working on a film project, that's one of the reasons it's so fun. It's the idea that almost every single day starts out with an impossible mission, and
Yes.
and hopefully you get to the end and nobody will die in the process. That's really it. There's a great sort of camaraderie in there, and it's certainly one of the most egalitarian places you'll ever be. I always say it's a happy dictatorship a perfect society in microcosm, where everybody is employed in doing exactly what they do best and better than anybody else at that given point in time. It's one of those sorts of things.
Well, it's 17?
It's 9:17. That's 8:17 in the United States of Kingdom.
Yes, and I don't know in America where
in
you
America's
are.
midday.
But, midday.
It's midday. Look,
Oh,
we got Francisco.
Oh, yes.
Paco.
There.
And
Great
there's
couple.
Paco.
Thank you.
So we got Francisco and Lorena, who are over there in Los Angeles. Yeah, we still have to talk about voiceovers and stuff like that. We never had that conversation, young man.
Well, thank you very much.
Jim says utterly amazing times they were. Yeah, this is one of the things that I think that we're very blessed at this particular juncture of human civilization. The fact that we can get to know people and have important relationships that can have profound impacts on not only on our lives, on their lives, on everybody's lives. That we can all attempt to make things a little bit better, because we are actually able to communicate them on so many different levels. Everybody has a real right to get to be who they really, really are. It's one of the things that I think when we talk about identity politics and everything these days, is it's a great metal shield between people getting to know each other on a more profound and authentic basis. We're very often unified by the things that we're against instead of the things that we're for. And I think that's it's the malaise of a late day in a civilization, that we've run out of things to fight, and now we're fighting each other.
Let's play Civilization.
Assumpta wants to play Civilization 6. That'll be us till 5 a.m. All right, so it's been a delight, everybody. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. It's great that you're here. You're a wonderful man with a lovely family, and very proud of you, sir, and everything that you're doing and have done. I think it's very, very important.
He says, think back to the time I actually told you what you were. That you was the reason I started doing voices, thanks to your Carnage Cassidy, that is. Nice.
It's got a lot to answer for, isn't it? Yeah, but this is something that happened the other day. The important thing is, and we should talk about that next week. Maybe we can talk about Kieran. Maybe we should get Kieran on. I'd like to speak to her from California. Because that's very important. Our capacity to open up a door for people who might have interest in the sort of things that we're doing, whether it's acting or voiceovers or cartoons or whatever the hell it was, whatever the hell it might be. All anybody really needs to do is express an interest or ask or whatever it might be, and you'll be surprised at the doors that open to you and how willing people are to help anybody who in good faith wants to really have a go at something, you know? I mean, that's so important.
Together with you. Yeah, of course.
It's so important. But anyway, look, let's finish for tonight. It's been a delight for everybody out there for us to talk about this for a while. As you can see, we're very passionate about it. We've thought about this a lot.
Yes.
As Ellie says, palabra de Scott Cleverdon.
Exactly.
So I have spoken. So it's like, this is the way.
No. We don't have that.
No, we don't have that. We don't have sort of like, I have spoken. Right. Thank you so much.
Today is Thursday. Tomorrow, Friday.
Really? Are you sure?
Tomorrow, Friday will be also in Spanish.
Tomorrow we will be here in Spanish to talk to you all. So if you want to work on your Spanish, come here and we can talk to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how is it talking for an hour in English? Is that? I mean, I have to do this every day. You know?
That's okay. I mean, I suppose it's awful where I say sometimes it's very messy.
No, not at all.
No?
Okay.
No. It's because
You've used the word eyewitness today. That's the word I haven't used in a long time. Testigo.
Oh, yeah. I said that today?
You said eyewitness, yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, well done.
Good.
You must be watching a lot of true crime videos on YouTube. Right. Thank you very much. And we'll be back tomorrow in Spanish. We'll be back this time next week in English. But remember, if you ever want to get in contact with us, we're the easiest people in the world to find. You can find our website at familiadecine.com. And this is our email address, scott@familiadecine.com or Assumpta@familiadecine.com. Remember, you can always find our playlists. All the ones that are in English that are in there. And also you get to subscribe. I'm going to do one that's in English, I think. That's what I've got to do. One that's in English. And if you want to join us, you can hook up with us on Patreon /Assumpta Serna, patreon.com/Assumpta Serna. One of the things I'd like to do because of this, and this is thinking of Crystal and amongst other people, I would like to do some analysis one night in English.
But that should be without without the live thing.
No. We'd have to do like a private Zoom or something like. Just to let you know that recently we did an analysis of Jeff Bridges and Meryl Streep. We did one of Robin Williams, the acting of Robin Williams in various films of his.
Yeah, we have very interesting people.
We would love to do those sort of things live, but the trouble is if we use any material, I know you've seen it, on YouTube. If you look on YouTube, if somebody's analyzing acting, you're going to see less than 7 seconds from a movie. If you have any more than that, then YouTube or Facebook will just cut the stream and sayonara. But yeah, Crystal says that would be nice. Yeah, I'd love to do that. So let's see if we can organize something next week. We can do it really late because I know Crystal's going to be. She's in Louisiana, so she's going to be 5 hours behind us or something like that. Maybe we can do it about midnight here. We'll find out what's a good time for her because that would be really awesome. And then you got Francisco and Lorena who are out there and. Also, and Passawini.
Kira would like to. I'm sure.
Oh, Kieran, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Bring him on. The more, the merrier. All right, so let's go ahead and do that.
Please,
but in the meantime, we're going to have a little after show after this, but here's our credits, and just remember, upwards
and
onwards. So Assumpta, so you're gonna play you want to play Civilization?
Like to play Civilization, yes.
Because you're a little bit upset because you didn't manage to form a world religion last time. Remember?
It's true.
It was pretty depressing. You understand why that was, right?
No.
You didn't invest in faith Early enough.
Early enough.
It's very disappointing.
Well, I want to do it right this time.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. Yeah, because it was
So the trick is to do a little bit of everything, really.
the trick is to do a little bit of everything.
And then at some point that we don't know what it is, this point, start by doing
Well, you see,
something.
you can't you can't actually create your own religion unless you have a prophet or a religious figure has to appear.
No. But what I mean is that you have to have a little bit of everything, and then decide if you want to go cultural or political or wars or
It's pretty much like any civilization. You can't just do one thing. You always have to kind of like
going through.
you can
towards something.
specialize in certain things. You know, but that's not an early aspect of the game, as it were.
Okay, thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm gonna go and call Ellie and finish up here. Apparently, the issue that we've been having with the slowdown and bandwidth doesn't happen if I don't go to LinkedIn and I don't go to Twitter.
Oh, really? It's with Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah, Twitter and LinkedIn.
Oh,
All right.
so you are not going to LinkedIn today or in Twitter?
No,
Oh, that's why.
that's why. Because I've been told by the eCams. eCam Live, the platform that we use.
But that is awful if they announce that they can do it in all these platforms.
I know.
And so they're
They're fully aware of this. Yeah.
and they want to.
Yeah, and they've told me how to get around it. So anyway, that's the way it is right now. I mean, it's only taken them a week to work it out, for goodness sake.
Yes. Thank you, Crystal. See you next week. Thank you to everybody. Goodbye.
Yeah. Okay, bye for now. Ciao.